The Thing feels like a good attempt at recreating the movie's atmosphere, initially setting you up with a small group to find out what happened to the crew at the end of the original movie in 1982, dropping you off in the aftermath of one of my favorite horror movies of all time. It's our job to find out what the hell happened here. Giving you a small group of people to work with that have names, personalities, fears, and functions, it feels like they're going for a recreation of the movie and expand on that story a little. But after losing your initial team, the game starts to open up far too much for that fear, claustrophobia, and paranoia to keep a grip on the atmosphere. And the game, for better or for worse, focuses more on the action aspects. While having you fight a select few monsters in the first third, it quickly moves to hordes of enemies that try to hunt you down across narrow corridors as you go deeper and deeper into a massive research station below the Arctic. Of course, from this point, we need to have a villain of the day in the form of Whiteley, a fellow soldier looking to create a bioweapon out of these monsters. So, from this point onward, we have to escape the facility and make our way through infected soldiers and a wide plethora of creatures. The game gets especially rough around the latter part of the game by giving you very little resources to work with, as it throws an almost unfair amount of enemies your way, making certain sections feel like hell on earth rather than a fun challenge to overcome, having you spiral down a massive walkway with gigantic amounts of enemies thrown your way. After beating the boss by literally standing in his face and blasting him full of lead, the facility starts to blow up, and we have to escape, lest we get burned along with it. Naturally, you would expect to have to rapidly make your way back to the top. However, the game pulls the biggest reverse Uno on the player and has you make your way back as slowly as possible along the exploding corridor. Here we have to chase Whiteley down to a final confrontation where you take to the air in a helicopter and have to gun Whiteley down, now transformed into a giant grotesque thing. Having blown up the barrels and having detentacled the monster, it finally burns down and we fly off to the credits, but not before revealing that the pilot is in fact MacReady, the sole survivor of the first movie. I appreciate the fact that the game leaves some semblance of ambiguity as to the main character's infection. It feels much more in line with the original movie as well as the overall feel of the 2011 prequel by the same name. The initial atmosphere feels tense, often having you doubt your teammates, and the trust mechanic plays well into this overhanging sense of paranoia. In the first third of the game, there is a definite weight on deciding whether the person you've just found is better off with or without a gun. It's unfortunate to see that the game runs itself into the ground as hard as it does in the second third onward, though, focusing very heavily on the action aspect as the playing field gets larger and larger. The game benefits the most from the small scale environments and small groups of people, and I rather would have seen the thing take an approach in a more focused emphasis on the characters, since that's where the game shines the most. There are some overall questionable to outright bad choices in the levels, and despite the relentless difficulty of the game, it does feel somewhat satisfying. In the end, though, the frustration with the bad game design holds the candle over the merits of the thing and it falls flat. If you're a fan of the movie, I can safely say give the first bit a look, but feel free to drop it midway through as you're not missing too much. The thing gets a 5 out of 10